Hello, welcome to Eclipse Vault. My name is Stuart Lee. Today I'm going to teach you a tutorial on how to change a laptop screen in a laptop PC. As you can see, I have a PC laptop here, which as you can see has a very faulty display. This is due to either wear and tear, drop-in, or people picking up in the wrong locations and causing failure. Now, with any laptop PC repair, laptop screen replacement, it will have to be powered down, removing any sources of power, which includes your AC power adapter, and also any battery backup, which is also included with the laptop, has to be taken out. Process of laptop screen replacements is pretty much the same with all types of laptops. However, screws, brackets and mountings may be different from laptop to laptop. The tools you'll need for this job, quite simple. A sharp Stanley blade, a flat small screwdriver, and a rather small posi screwdriver. I also have here a replacement screen ready to be fitted, and also a microfiber cloth just for giving it a quick clean down once the job has been completed. Okay, we start by using the sharp Stanley blade to removing the little small plastic lugs which will hold and cover the screws. Generally there'll be between 6 and 8 little plastic covers. I've got a little small plastic bag to put them on top because they are self-adhesive and it keeps the stickiness in one place. As you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on this laptop. Other ones have 4, others have 2. Okay, once you've taken out the little small rubber grommets which hold the screws, with your small screwdriver, very gently and very carefully start to undo the screws on the laptop bezel. Once all the screws are out, it is now a matter of taking the front bezel away from the top chassis. Now don't be too frightened on this, it does make a little bit of a creaking and a cracking noise, but you're not going to damage it. Ideally, either the left hand side or the right hand side, put your fingernails inside the screen and gently pull up, and with your finger underneath it, gently raise across and then down and all the way along the bottom, and then gently pull the bezel up from the corners, over the hinges, and the bezel becomes free. Put that to one side, so save any being damaged. As you can see, there's a number of screws on the actual chassis itself which need to also be undone. Most laptop screens, however, do have either 2 or 4 screws on either side of the screen. They're held together with 2 hinges on the top and the bottom. Now, because the screen itself is hardly any movement in it whatsoever, you can't get the screwdriver at the very bottom hinge. Ideally, the bottom hinge is here. Very gently undo them, but don't take the screws completely out on both sides. That now gives you access to the whole of the screen and also the very bottom screws. Now, this is a matter of 2 hands with 2 screwdrivers. Very gently put the screwdriver behind the hinge and the screen and start to undo the 4 or the 8 screws on the side of the laptop screen itself. Most screen screws are black in colour, some of them are silver, but most of them are indeed black. Now, once you've undone the bottom 2, the third one is quite simple. Take the screwdriver out. Okay, that's one side done. Now the same on the other side is exactly the same, just reverse around for you. Screwdriver underneath, undo the bottom screw, the middle screw, and once you've done that, take the screwdriver out and you can undo the top screw quite easily. Okay, once you've got all the screws out, the laptop screen is now technically free from its chassis. Just a small screwdriver forward and the whole screen now becomes completely free from any brackets or any hinges. Now, on the reverse side of the screen, this is where we have to be slightly careful because these cables are very delicate. they are kept together in three types of connections. The screen inverter cable, which connects to the top of the laptop screen, is then also connected to an inverter board down the bottom of the screen. This only happens on LCD displays. LED screens are slightly different, which we may cover at a later stage. First thing to do is very gently lever any glue which is caught under the inverter cable and gently pull the cable forward until it comes out. Laptop back into position. The inverter board is generally screwed in, so with one screwdriver undo the inverter board and remove it very, very gently. Now this generally has two types of connections. As you can see, the screen is almost clear from its chassis now. Power for the actual screen itself is here, so that just literally needs to be taken away. And generally the inverter cable is connected via a cable which either onto the top of the board or onto the side. In this case it's the top of the board. Pull that one off quite happily and the inverter cable becomes free. That now is the faulty board, and that will now need to be replaced or disposed of adequately, which we can do later on. Now reversal of the screen is basically exactly as we've just taken it apart. Ideally put the screen on top of the bag it comes in, stop it from being scratched, and mount it exactly as you did taking the old one apart. So first thing we did, put the inverter cable back into place. These are keyed and they only go in one way, so you can't get this bit wrong. The power to the inverter, again, is keyed only, but 9 times out of 10 there's two little colours which represent the top of the actual inverter cable, so you can't put that one in wrong either. You hear a little small click and it goes into place. Mount it into the exact location holes where you took it from, and with the screw that come out of the inverter, simply screw it back into place. Do not tighten these screws up too tight because they may protrude through the back end of the screen, and that will look obviously quite unsightly. Just make sure it's all pushed into place, and that's part one done. The next part is attaching the cable to the top of the actual laptop screen. This is done by putting the cable into the socket nice and squarely, pushing forcefully forward until you hear a slight click. Once you've heard the click, that is now locked into position, and then we have to marry the brackets up to the screen again like we did when we took it apart. Once that's in place, remove the protective wrapping and start putting the screws back in as we did taking them apart. Now with the screws, putting them together is slightly different because the screen may have dropped slightly, and the brackets themselves do have a little bit of leeway for moving up and down. So again, we start with the top screw on this occasion with the screwdriver behind it to lift it. Very carefully and very slowly put that screw in place. But do not tighten this up fully at the moment. Leave that as loose as possible because we may have to move the screen up or down later on to make sure it's square. With the bottom one, we do the same thing. Screw in the hole. Like I say, a magnetic screwdriver is ideal in these occasions. It stops that thing from happening there. Right, once that screw is in place, that one can be tightened up quite tightly because there is no way that can move up or down. Again, do not over tighten, just a general tighten of the screw until you feel no more force. Then there's the screw on the top half of the panel, that then goes put into place. Remove the screwdriver completely and tighten up the top screw. That now is put into place. And also remember to tighten up the hinge bracket, which we did at the beginning of the procedure. Again, do not over tighten. And then the same on the other side. Again, starting at the top, screwdriver behind the bracket, behind the screen, line up the hinge. Again, do not over tighten because that will need to be moved up or down slightly later on. Bottom one can be tightened up quite firmly. And then the final screw in the centre. Once that one's in place, screwdriver out of the way, tighten up the top screw, and as you can see, the screen is now permanently attached. By putting the screwdriver behind the screen, there's no way that screen is going to move, and again, Make sure all the hinge brackets are tightened up. Okay, that's that part of the procedure completed. Next is putting the bezel back on. Best way of putting the bezel back on, if this has hinges, is to put the hinges into the hole first, either side, and you'll hear them slightly click into place. Once they're clicked into place, it's just a matter of going round and hearing the click as the two pieces of plastic join back together. Along the bottom of the hinge, there's two ways to do this. If you put either side, pressure on either side of it, the screen now is perfectly lined up and into position. The process of keeping the bezel in place is a matter of simply putting these silver screws I've taken out first back into place again. Do not over tighten. Now the little rubber caps are quite simple. Because you put them on a plastic bag, the adhesive should still be intact, so when you push them back in, they simply don't literally fall straight back off again. So what we do is put them into the little brackets and little holes. A little bit of pressure with your finger and thumb just to make sure they stay in place. And there the screen has been replaced on the laptops for you. Now, just to ensure everything's all working, battery back in. Power back on. And in a few moments or so, Windows will boot to a normal Windows display without the bleed which we had originally. And there we have a laptop screen replacement in under 15 to 20 minutes. Once again, thank you for your time, thank you for watching.